Hey guys, Quincy here with GD Viperworks, and I have an update for the pit. Right now I'm working on knobs again, and I figured it's probably a good time to talk about knobs and how I create them. First of all, some of these knobs are available online. You could find them on forums, whether it's viperpits.org, or you might be able to find some links through the DCS forums. There's also another location, search for hempstick.org. And they have a lot of Viper parts that have been designed for 3D printing. So a lot of these I downloaded. Some of them weren't available. I had to actually design them myself. For example, you could tell which ones. This one here has these black construction lines on it. It shows that I designed that knob as opposed to the ones next to it, which are just gray. Those were downloaded as STLs, but they weren't perfect. They needed to be sized properly. They also needed to be modified. Let's take a look at the bottom of one of these and how I modify it. They usually come with some different holes in them. You could see these D slot holes on these older knobs that I made. They won't necessarily work with your pit. So I had to figure out a way to take these STL files, which I cannot drag and size and all that easily, like it was my own part. I figured out that if I make a template and I size it properly, as you can see right here, I have two concentric rings. I drew these to be the proper size for the outside radius for the knob I needed, and then I scaled up the knob, the STL file, and match them up. And then the next thing that I did was, you can't see it here, but what the original hole that was in here, I had to basically fill it. So let's raise this up a little bit. And you could see the construction drawing here. Basically, I would take this, and this is Shaper 3D, by the way. I love this software. It's great. And I would make a cylinder bigger than the hole in the knob. Oop, get this thing back. Oh, bad timing. Here you are. Okay, sorry about that. So basically this cylinder would be inside of this knob, and then I would select it, and then through here I would be able to join them. Of course, they're not sitting one inside the other, so I'm not going to mess up my knob. I would join them. That would fill the hole with this solid plug, and it would become one solid part again. So then what I do is I have brass inserts that are 10 millimeter, and that's why I have this 10 millimeter hole right here, that I create a cylinder to then once again insert inside of my now solid knob, and then I would subtract it as a shape from this part. Sorry, I'm looking at the screen over my phone, so I'm a little bit off. So I would subtract it out, and that would leave me with the hole that we'll see here. Let me get rid of this because this is just here to demonstrate. Go away. Delete. Put this back down where it belongs. All right, deselect. And that would leave me with this hole. So in order to have the set screw, oh, here we go again. In order to have the hole for the set screw, I would also have to make a hole or a circle. I would also extrude that out, just like I did with that bottom part, and then select this part here, then select subtract the extruded cylinder that would cut a hole in it again. So you have to get a little bit creative in how you're going to manipulate these parts online. you could see one of these holes here. These didn't come out so good, but they function. But this hole was then extruded into the knob and then deleted. And by deleting it, it would leave the hole. All right, let's go back here. Now let's take a look at how we go from these designs to actual parts. So you have to export these in the proper format, usually STL or 3MF files that I can take to my slicer software for my 3D printer. After I slice them and send them to the resin 3D printer, I find resin works the best, I wind up with these. There should be an inset photo in here where you'll see them on the build plate, but this is that same knob I was just demonstrating. You can see there's a shelf in there that basically is a stopper for my brass insert, so it only goes so far. But because the stem on your switch is longer than that, there's another section inside to allow the stem on that switch to go a little deeper into that knob. There's the hole for the set screw. All right, so that's the raw parts. The next thing I do, I start painting stripes. I start with white. I use the Tamiya XF2 flat white, and I just sloppily paint that on to the groove. It doesn't have to be neat because I'm going to mask it. In fact, I do want overlap outside of that center line. Because once that's dry, and that's important, it has to dry, I use this Tamiya 1mm masking tape. And you have to be very patient and align it on that white stripe. And then the next step is, once that's on there, you take the Tamiya black and then you overpaint the tape, and you also paint outside. Once again, it could be sloppy, so that you cover this entire area. Because once again, we're going to put another piece of masking tape. Again, Tamiya modeling masking tape, 3mm. So basically it leaves me with 3mm lines going from side to side. I will have black, white, black, 1mm, ideally 1mm, 1mm. And there should be an inset photo that will show the process of painting over that masking tape. So once that 3mm is on, it's now time to paint these gray. I use a spray paint. I found a pretty good match. Is actually this Krylon all-in-one matte vintage gray. So with the masking tape on, I give it a good spray. Not too much, you don't want it to run. And again, let it dry. Don't rush it. And then afterwards, you can peel off that masking tape, and it should leave you with some fairly clean lines, as you can see on these. This one's a little bit off center. I can fix it, but I usually make multiple knobs just in case. They can be a little tricky to get aligned properly. So that'll be a spare. All right. The very last thing I want to do, because you will be touching these knobs quite frequently, especially certain ones, in order to protect the model paint with something that's a little more abrasion resistant. Model paint is not really, but the spray paint is. So after testing several paints, I've decided Krylon Fusion all-in-one clear, flat clear. It's flatter than this matte vintage gray too, which is nice. So put that on nice and light, Don't get too close to your parts when you spray it. You don't want it to pond up. And the last step is to insert the brass inserts. This is the brass insert. These things are not commercially available anywhere. You'd think that it would be simple to find them, but it's not. So I had to go onto Amazon, and I found these knobs right here. They're very cheap. It's like, I don't know, $1.50 for 10, something like that. They do require a little bit of effort. This is one of them here. Requires a little bit of effort to extract this brass insert. And also be careful not to damage it. But when you do, you'll have a collection of them. Time to start cracking these things again. And you'll be ready to insert them into your knobs. So here's an example where this was pressed in. You can see the hole for the set screw there. The set screw is in there. Looks like you could just see it shine a little bit. And now it doesn't matter if this is going on to a flat D shaft or a round shaft, that this will tighten up nicely and function very well. I don't have to worry about making different angled D shaft, flat shafts for my pit. So let's see if I missed anything. Those fit pretty tight in there, but just to ensure that they don't come out, pretty much any super glue will work. I chose the 30-second setting. There are some that are quicker. I want the time to be able to get it in the right position before it sets. So 30 seconds is perfect. Two ways that I might do it, I've tried both, is to put a drop or two around the inner wall, away from the set screw hole, so opposite. So when this presses in, you'll get some glue in those ridges. It's pretty tight, actually, with my design. I don't really need it, but it's there for reinforcement. Another way to do it is after pressing that in, I might put a drop or two where the two parts interface. So that's how I make my knobs. Let's go take a look at the pit for an update on what they look like on the panels that I've built, and a very short update on where the pit's going. So you can see this workbench is very messy. I've been doing a lot of wiring and creating a lot of knobs. So to close out the video on the knobs, here they are installed on the appropriate panels. They look great, they function great, and you can see I'm starting to replace the switches on these panels with the proper actual switches. So I'm moving backward here. This is all functioning right now, and the next step is to get rid of this wind wing. I'm still working on getting components to replace the parts in an old Cougar grip, and then place them on my TQS arm that will get installed to replace this. And then finally I will get to work on those panels underneath. So thanks for tuning in again. Take care.